Hi everyone, it's Erin from BB Mix Media, and today I'm going to be doing a flip through of my Messy May journal, which I finally was able to complete. If you don't know about Messy May, it is a month-long list of prompts and inspirational activities hosted by a different artist each day, and it's brought to us by Get Messy and Kaylee Gray, who pulls everything together with her team at Get Messy Art. So I was fortunate enough to be a host during the month, which was super exciting. And then I was really happy to take part in all of the activities each day and take inspiration and learn new things and try new things throughout the month. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up my journal. Day one was actually creating your journal and getting ready for Messy May. And I opted to use a children's board book. I have a video on my YouTube channel on how I made this if you want to check that out. One thing about doing your cover at the beginning of a project rather than at the end of having it completed is at least I am a messy artist, and so I got smudges and paint and muck on my actual cover, but that's okay. It's well loved. So anyway, that was the first day. So this is my book. It's gotten very chunky, which I like. Okay, so let's open this up. So the first couple days or the first couple pages rather, I included all of the artists that were part of Messy May, and then here are all the prompts listed here as well. So day two was Claudette Hezenjager, and she focused on the word expand. And so thinking of ways to expand your journal page. So I expanded mine by adding a couple of pockets that I could collect and gather things in throughout the month, and an area to gather notes together and collect notes about things that I liked, things that we did that I found interesting, and that I might want to revisit again. So that's this page. Day three was Brain Dump, and that was with Tamara Sagathavan. And I have a YouTube video on how I made this page, but the prompt was Brain Dump, and the idea was to get all of your thoughts out on the page prior to starting your artwork, and that gives your thoughts a place to go and rest and get out of your head so that you can actually concentrate on your art or self-care. Day four was Joy with Mitsuko Nashitani. And she has been keeping journals for many, many, many years, and they're fabulous. And she did a kind of a look through of her many different journals. And so this page the prompt was Joy. And I took inspiration from her style. She showed us how to swatch washi tape, which I thought was really clever. And I pulled some things out that had come to me in Happy Mail that I've been holding on to. And I thought it was nice to showcase them here in this layout and gather them together and put them in a journal to kind of document the experience. Day five the prompt was Elevate with Tina Oys, and this was really fun. She did a lot of different techniques, and I followed every one of them to arrive at this. Her style is so interesting, and I just love it, and I was really happy with how this turned out. And she talked about elevating your page, taking it to the next level, and I think she accomplished that with all of her tricks. Day six was Patchwork with Kia Creates, and this was such a clever, simple idea, and it was just basically taking paper scraps and creating a patchwork page. And she had so many examples of patchworks that she created with different themes and topics and color schemes, and the possibilities were endless, and it was really fun to do. So simple and yet so cute. Page seven was Garner, and so that was an idea of kind of gathering things together, doing swatches, gathering your supplies. And so I went back to this first page where I had my pockets, and I did some swatches of kind of the palette I thought I might be using with Apple Barrel Craft Paints and my Caran Brush Pro watercolor markers. And then I did some other swatches of colors that I thought I might be using and put them in this little envelope. So that was kind of how I met Erin Ware's prompt of Garner. Then day 8 was Megan Early, and the prompt was alchemy, and she showed us how to take kind of ordinary supplies and turn them into something cool, a reflection of ourselves. And it was kind of like a little pep talk for ourselves. So this was some sticker paper that I had flubbed up and printed incorrectly, so I used that to make a little pocket. I have just a little tag here. And then here are my little sort of pep talks to myself, little words of inspiration to keep me going and to believe in myself. Day 9 was Andrea Oakson, and the prompt was layers. And so this page has a ton of layers on it. There's papers underneath here. I think there's a map. There's drywall tape here, some stickers that had been punched out, and then some nice florals and another layer of paper. So just building up the layers to make a really interesting page. Next we had Katie Moody, and the prompt was time. So for this prompt I actually timed myself. I gave myself, I think, like 15 minutes to do this page. I already had this stamped floral, stamped and painted floral sitting in my stash, and so I used that. The next lesson was Andrea Chablot, sorry, and it was notice. And she encouraged us to just notice what was on our desk, notice some little scraps of paper, notice the beauty in these little micro scraps, and use those in our spreads. Day 12 was renewal, and that was my day. So I do have a video on the Get Messy YouTube channel for that lesson. Day 13 was serendipity, and that's my page for serendipity with Karen Aguirre, and I combined it with the next day, which was day 14, let go, and that was with Jennifer Mercedes, who had us do blind contour drawing. And this color palette is a little bit different for me, but this was the art piece I was using to do my blind contour drawing from. And blind contour is when you look at what you're drawing and not at your page. So this didn't look near this good until I started coloring it in. And when you're coloring it in, you're looking at the page. So that makes it easier. So it was kind of messy, but I was able to then go in and color in and fill in and make it look pretty good. The vase is still a little wonky, but I was surprised at how well this turned out. And then I thought this looked nice on this page, and so I used that color palette to create the serendipity page and kind of put them all together. Day 15 was Reimagine with Meg Journals, I believe. And the prompt here was to sort of reimagine everyday things and use them in a spread. So here I have a tea bag. I've got an old stamp. This was a security envelope, paint chip from a hardware store, and then this floral I made from palette paper, and this is just paint splatters and blobs on palette paper, which I then created a floral out of. I do have a video on YouTube about how I make those. So everything here was sort of reimagined into something else to make the page. Stephanie Turiel talked about clusters on day 16 as a way to sort of enhance your journal and get have a creative outlet on your journal pages, leaving space to journal, but having these nice little corners of clusters to brighten them up. Day 17 was Tiffany Goff Smith, and the prompt was explore. And so I followed Tiffany's kind of messy, wild style, which I just love. It's so different from mine, but it's so freeing to work with. And I started with a pace of already used palette paper. It's got a lot of texture and grubbiness on it, and then just explored where I could go from there. Sophie DeCourt showed us how to extend our journal and use extensions in our journal by adding a page or adding to a page. So I created this little flap extension, and then on that I did the next day's prompt, which was gratitude from Jane Lee. And so here's my prompt. I was thinking a lot about being so grateful for my kids' health. I have a friend whose son has been ill, and so that was really on my mind, and so that was easy for me to be thinking about how grateful I am that my kids are healthy. And then I was able to flip this page out and do the next lesson, which was Eugenie Laurent Bilot, and she used scraps to make this great. It's just such a simple concept, and it's just your paper scraps, and it's sort of like a swatching of your scraps, and trusting the process that it's going to work and it's going to look good in the end. And so I was super happy with how this turned out. Day 21 was lifelines. This is probably my least favorite result. I really thought the concept was cool, loved what she did, loved what everyone else did, but I struggled with this. So you start by just sort of randomly drawing lines on your page, and then from those lines you start working to get to your final journal page. And I just really struggled with this and just wasn't very happy with it at all. I did like I kind of experimented with coloring in the spaces between the lines, and I thought that kind of looked cool, but overall I wasn't very happy with it. What's next? Identity was day 22 with Shay Dyer, and this was sort of interesting about making 3 different pieces of paper that sort of portray different facets of you and who you are. And so I didn't actually go and create paper. I was running out of time, but I went through my stash and pulled out papers that I thought reflected some different facets of myself, and put those together with a selfie on the page. And it says grieving here, and it's something I haven't really talked about on Instagram or YouTube or anywhere, but my dad passed away in March, and I lost my mom last March. So it's been a difficult time. We've lost a lot of people in our family. I think I'm just of an age where that's happening. So anyway, I pulled that page together, and I am grieving, but I am hopeful that I will come out on the other side at some point, and we'll move forward into a new and different life without them. Day 21 was play with Ingrid Murray. And this was kind of fun. I pulled out a couple supplies I hadn't used. I have this sort of pearlescent ink, and threw that down on the page. It looks very orange in the bottle, but here it looks like a beautiful peachy pink. And I did a bunch of splatters, and I did some scribbly marker, and I dropped blobs of white paint on the page and just sort of played, and I'm happy with how that came out. That was fun. I'm going to skip now because the next lesson was palette, and I wanted a 2-page spread, so I had to turn the page for that. This was day 24 with Elaine Lee, and she took a photograph and pulled the colors out of the photograph to create a palette. And so I chose this photo of a pub from Ireland and pulled the colors out and then did the sketch of the pub. The pub's not in Dublin, but I named the palette Fair City, which is another nickname for Dublin. And I just love this idea. Like, I think a whole journal of these palettes with these sketches would just be really cool. And I'm not the best sketcher, but that's something like city sketching or whatever it's called. I'd love to keep practicing that because I just so admire people that are able to do it. And then going back, this was day 25 was Brian Christopher, and the prompt was collaboration, and he showed us a lot of cool artwork that's compiled of works from different artists. And so what I did for that was took papers that I had gotten in Happy Mail from different artists and combined them with some of my own to make a collaborative piece of our different styles and our different papers. The next prompt was scraps. That was day 26 with Sasha Zinjevic. I have a tutorial on YouTube on this. There's a lot of scraps of paper underneath, and then I just layered a ton of stencils on top of it. You can see that one on YouTube. Day 27 was Archive with Caitlin Gray, and my son graduated this year, and so this was him on the night of an awards ceremony before graduation. And so I just kind of archived and documented that night. And I got these great little gadgets from whatever they are from Julia Farrell, who's sent me a just wonderful package of Happy Mail that included this gold and white paper as well. This is another combo page. This is day 28 and 29. Liz Constable talked about mistakes, and Tracy Taylor showed us how to incorporate sunbursts into our work. So the mistakes and how to fix mistakes was really what Liz was focusing on, and maybe even make something better than what you had before you made the mistake. So these were stamps that for whatever reason I didn't get enough ink on the stamp, and I did not get a good stamp of this whole floral. So I had 3 of them, and I took those all together, cut out the best of each piece and put them together. And so that sort of made an interesting piece, and I made that the center of my sunburst. and she showed a lot of different ways you can incorporate sunbursts into your work, and it's a really cool idea that I'd like to try again going forward. Day 30 was with Job Aram, and Job encouraged us to pull things out of our stash that we had been hoarding, some of our favorite things, and actually use them in our journals. And so I had these slides that I had made in fodder school with, I think it was Kelly Anderson, and I'd been holding on to them forever. I had some nice old papers that I got in some Happy Mail, and I had these great pieces that came from Wow Studios, and I was kind of just holding on to all of this stuff. So I thought this was a good opportunity to create a page to showcase these cute little slides, and I just love how it turned out. So I'm glad I got pushed to use some of my favorite things. And then the last day was Kaylee once again. The prompt was finished, and I kind of thought about my word for the year enough. I was sort of struggling with this page a little bit. I did tie it into the covers, and I kind of kept thinking, oh, maybe it needs something more, I don't know. And then I thought back, about when is a page finished, and my word of the year, which is enough. And I thought, it's good enough, and it's done, and I'm going to call it finished, and I can move forward on other projects now. So that is it. That is my Messy May journal. I so enjoyed being an instructor on Messy May, or a host rather. Had such a fun time doing it. All the videos, I believe, are on Get Messy Art YouTube, and you can check them out there. That's it for me today. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm at EB Mixed Media. That's EB_Mixed Media. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.